Yeah. Okie dokie. Good morning. Give me just a second here. I am a little out of practice. As you know, I've been gone for a little while. There we go. Quiet. Hush. Um, I'm a little out of practice with getting things set up because I've been gone on vacation, and it things changed while I was gone. Not So basically, when I go to get on this morning, a lot of things in my broadcasting, live streaming world changed while I was away, and I did not realize it. For one thing, Twitch, which is one channel where I broadcast, oh shit, pardon me. That was totally uncalled for, but oh my God, this chair just broke. What the hell? Ugh. You can't trust cheaply made furniture anymore, I swear. I'll have to fix that. I'll have to re-glue it or something. Anyway, so Twitch basically dumped all of their streaming keys and regenerated new ones. So a streaming key is basically a really long sequence of numbers and letters that identifies your stream from a streaming software to the Twitch servers in order to stream. So anyway, that happened. Facebook completely changed their setup for live streaming, which is really annoying because I hop in there and normally it was really simple for me to just kind of copy things over from one platform. Like from YouTube, I would set up everything in YouTube. And like the title and the description and all that stuff was set up in YouTube. And then I would just copy and paste it over to Facebook, hit go, and it was all hunky-dory. But they changed their whole setup because Facebook just loves to keep things easy for you. It's horrible. Anyway, so I had to figure that out because everything was in a different place. Plus their persistent streaming key, which is basically that key I was talking about. It's supposed to be a persistent key, which means that you don't have to change it. It just stays the same. It doesn't change over time. Well, the persistent key doesn't stay persistent. So I have to go get the new key, copy it over to the broadcast software, paste it back in, and get everything running. But that being said, we are live on all 3 channels now. So that's a good thing. Oh, and my iPad was dead. And that's where I use the Stream Deck stuff to switch between channels and things like that. So, like if I want to go break time. So luckily I actually have it on my phone here as well. I don't know if you can see that. It's where's my little thing here? So basically I've got little buttons set up, little digital buttons set up, and so that allows me to switch between the scenes in my in my software. But I normally do that on my iPad, and my iPad was dead. It's hard coming back from vacation. So anyway, that happened. Now, as far as vacation goes, I actually got back last Friday. Not 2 days ago Friday, but the Friday before that. And I took an entire week off once I got back because I was not in great shape when I got back. I had a stomach thing going on, and I still have a leg thing going on, where I'm not sure exactly if I think I strained a ligament or something in my leg, which is not super comfortable, but is what it is. For those of you who don't know, my vacation consisted of me riding my bicycle from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C., which is 334 miles, and camping along the way, which is a thing. It's people call it bike packing or bike touring or whatever you want to call it. I call it bike packing because it's kind of like backpacking, but I'm doing it on a bike. There are 2 trails that I followed. One is called the Gap Trail, which is the Great Allegheny Passage, which runs from Pittsburgh to Cumberland, Maryland. And then in Cumberland, Maryland, you get the 0 marker for the Gap Trail, and then you pick up the C&O Canal Trail which basically it used to be the C&O Canal, the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal. It is now a national park, and you can actually travel along the canal path from Cumberland, Maryland, all the way down to basically Georgetown in Washington, D.C. And there are camping sites all along the way, and it was a lot of fun. It was hard work. I had done a little training for it, but not a lot. I put in some really what are big mile days for me. So people ride their bikes, and some people do like really, like they'll do 100 miles in a day and think nothing of it. For me, that would be just monsters. So I did a couple of long days, like 50+ mile days, 52 and a 55, I think. Most of mine were within 35 to 45 miles for the other days. And that was pretty good for me. It was a lot of work. It was hard, but it was very rewarding. I met some super nice people along the way. Just everybody was really, all the other bike packers and people walking and hiking and everything else. So just met some super nice people. The weather was pretty darn good. I only had one stretch of kind of rainy, misty day, and it didn't really rain on me, just more like misted. There was one night I was already in my tent and it rained, but that didn't matter. And the rest of the days were pretty nice. So got some beautiful weather, saw some beautiful scenery, rode my bike for 334 miles. And if you want to watch my entire trip, I actually have that on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube/Jeff Revell, there's a playlist called Gap and C&O Canal. So if you go to that playlist, you'll be able to watch. I broke it into 4 parts, which basically each day contains 2 days worth of riding, except for the last part, which is 3 days. They were very short days on the bike. So they were parts 7, 8, and 9. Our days 7, 8, and 9. I could have done it in less days, but if you watch the video, you'll find out why that didn't happen. I originally planned it for 9 days. And logistically speaking, it worked out better if I just did the 9 instead of shorten the trip. So if you want to watch the videos and you can see what a bike packing trip is about, and if you're interested in the Gap Trail, which is a beautiful trail, I highly recommend if you want to do something like this. It's like a rail to trail kind of thing. So beautiful surfaces to ride on. Very, very minimal time spent on any roads. You're on this trail almost the whole way. It is beautifully maintained. It's all volunteer maintained, and they do a fantastic job. The C&O Canal is a national park. It's a little rougher. It's still a nice trail. They're working on fixing it up a little bit. There are a couple of areas where there's some detours and stuff. You have to be mindful of that, but it's still a very cool trail. And you can pick these up from different points on the trail. You don't have to go from the very beginning to the very end kind of thing. You can do little sections of them and everything else. So I highly advise you look them up. Look up Gap Trail, G-A-P, Gap Trail, and you'll find it very easy. And then C&O Canal Trail is really easy to too. That one's maintained, like I said, by the National Park Service. Actually, the C&O Canal Trail, or the C&O Canal Park, if you will, it's a linear park. It basically runs the length of the canal, but that is like the 8th most visited national park in the country. So very popular, like 4.5 million visitors. That being said, most of those visitors are not on the entirety of the trail. They're in a little section near DC, like Great Falls Park and stuff is where you get most of the visitors there. The rest of the trail, it's actually pretty serene. Lots of solitude riding through there, riding through basically a green tunnel of leaves. You've got a Potomac River on one side and the canal on the other side. And yeah, it was a really great experience, and I really enjoyed it. Am I going to do it again? I might do a shorter one. The 334 miles for me at my age was a little long, but I got to tell you, there were people of all ages doing this thing. So I met a family of 4, there's mom and dad, and then there's 2 girls who were 11 and 13, and they were kind of doing a mix of camping and then staying in hotels and bed and breakfast. So they kind of mixed it up. They were doing the whole thing, excuse me, the whole thing in 2 weeks, which is some nice easy pedaling days. So you can do that. I saw people who were much older than I was, in their 70s, doing this thing. A lot of people on e-bikes. So e-bikes are a very big thing. I would say if you're doing e-bikes, you have to watch your range, because they have limited range and you want to stay somewhere where you have power to recharge your e-bike at night. But there were a lot of people, there were a lot of group tours. So these were supported tours where they basically just rode their bikes, and all of their gear and such was transported from one stop to another by, you know, someone in a van. So all they had to worry about was pedaling and stuff. So there's a lot of those things out there, and a lot of opportunities to just get out and ride your bike and have a good time. And if you're kind of getting into biking or whatever, which a lot of people have been because of the pandemic and stuff, these are two really great trails to just kind of go out and explore. They're not too rough. They're not too difficult. There's not giant hills. There's a couple, but most of it is flat and easily manageable. And yeah, I highly recommend it. It's really great. My advice, if you want to do the whole thing, my advice is start at Pittsburgh and go to DC. You can take a train there. You can get there in different ways, but I would go from Pittsburgh to DC, because that way the elevations are mild and manageable. And when you get to the Eastern Continental Divide, you get this big giant downhill into Cumberland. If you're going the other direction, you have to go up that big giant downhill to get to the divide. So my advice would be to go from Pittsburgh to DC, but that's just what I did. Other people do it the other direction. Like I said, I did it in 9 days. There was a guy, when I rode the train up to Pittsburgh, because that's how I got there. I took my bike on the train up to Pittsburgh and then stayed the night and started the next day. There was a guy catching the train in DC with me. He rode the whole thing in 1 day. I have no idea how you ride 334 miles on these trails in 1 day, but he did. And then there was another gentleman who was going back to Pittsburgh who did it and he was probably my age, and he did it in 3 days. And I was just like, oh my, you guys are making me feel bad. But that's on the extreme. Most people do it between 5 to 7 days. 7's actually a good time frame if you're going to do the whole thing. If you want to stretch it out, 9 days is a really pretty manageable feat. So anyway, enough about that. I got back and got things settled. I took all my gear with me, by the way, if you're wondering. My tent and my sleeping bags and sleep system and all of my food and clothes and everything were on bags on my bike, and there was a whole setup. So if you want to see that, like I said, check out the video. Look up bike packing. It's a thing, and you'll find all kinds of setups and stuff for it. Okay, so I'm going to stick this over here real quick because it doesn't really belong over here, and I haven't had a chance to really do a lot in the shop since I've been back. I've been babying my leg because it's been hurting me. And I've got stuff sitting around like, well, I was unpacking my bike. This is butane propane mix. This is camping fuel. So I had a stove that I would cook meals with. And it's a little micro stove, but it uses little canisters and stuff. So I still have some stuff sitting around here when I unpack my bike. But kind of just looking at where we're at here, because I had stopped and I had done one base, kind of finished a lid on it, I think is where I got to. I think that was, I believe that was this lid right here. So it's this walnut base right here. And I had I believe the last thing I did was finish, get this off of here. I finished this lid right here. So including the little notch up top. And so there we go. This is the walnut one. This is the triangular piece that'll be cut down into the corners. That's the next thing to come on this one. But what I do have to do is basically finish all the lids for the other ones, because I kind of did one and then I didn't do any more. I was like really excited about my trip and I didn't carry through. So I did one yesterday just to get out here and kind of see where I was at. And I think I did this one right here. Move that out of the way for a minute. So I did this one right here, which is an oak base. So I made a lid, fit it, got it nice and flush down right here. And this is really what we need to do for the rest of these. I've got all these blanks over here. I've got all these, oh, pardon me, I've got these blanks, which will be cut down into the proper size. Okay, I don't need this one. Basically what I need is 2 cherries and 2 hickories. So I have 2 cherry and 2 hickory blanks that we can use to cut down into the proper sizes and then flatten those and put them in their bases. Once they get in the bases, we can go ahead and make the finger notches, because getting these things, you have to have a fingernail to get inside there to get these things out. So I usually put a little half circle in the top just to make it kind of nice. That's kind of like a signature thing for my bases on the lids, that they'll have that little signature thing. This was a nice piece of wood. I like this. It's kind of got character to it. So this thing has like some wormholes in it and such. And I've been debating, I don't know if you can see them as well there. Definitely you can see them on the back. You can see up along here and down, I think it's over here. No, over here. There's some wormholes and stuff in here. And a little bit of character there. I like this piece of wood because it's got the little cathedral thing going on. And I thought that was pretty nice. I've been debating as to whether or not I want to fill these holes or just leave them be. There was a bunch of these on the front of here, and I've already filled the ones on the front. Just used some standard wood filler, and I think, where's my wood filler? Right here. So I've just used the old DAP plastic wood just to fill some of those on the front. But I'm thinking on the lid I might leave them intact. I don't know what that'll look like when they get stained either. I'm hoping the front of it looks okay, but when these get sanded off, hopefully when they get stained and such, it won't be out of place. It'll look pretty decent, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Oh, speaking of sanding, I almost forgot. So one thing, I've got an addition to the shop. It'll be here today. I was hoping it'd be here earlier, but it's not gonna be here till later today. But I'll give you a hint. So this is not the item, but it is a hint as to what the item is. So if you see this, you're like, okay, it's a sanding disc, big deal, right? But here's the thing. See this sander right here? See this disc? Do you see how large this disc is compared to this one? Yeah, it goes like, it's much larger. The reason is, this is, I got this stupid sander over here. This is a 6-inch, there you go. So there's your difference right there. Hopefully you can see that. So this is a 6-inch sanding disc. So a little bit more, about a ½ inch all the way around there, right? 6-inch sanding disc, which I actually have a whole box of these in different grits that I bought to support my newest shop tool, which is a Bosch 6-inch gear-driven rotary sander. I needed something with more oomph. My little Ryobi thing that I have, it's fine as a finish sander. It doesn't remove stock well. It doesn't flatten very well. It just has no oomph. And I needed something that was going to give me some good bang for the buck. And what I ended up buying was, hang on a second, the Bosch GET 75 6N orbital sander. So basically it has 2 modes. It has like an orbital mode, and it has what they call a turbo mode, which is a heavy duty gear driven mode. And if you're familiar with Festool made their Rotex sander, which is really super famous. They made that in competition with this. Bosch actually had this first. They made one that is in competition with that. The Festool sander is $600, which is a reason why I didn't buy a Festool. It's 600 bucks, and yeah, I just can't spend $600 on a sander. Not at this point in my career. But I did spend about half that much on this one. And I know that's a big investment on a sander, but I do a lot of sanding. And the other thing I was thinking about was when I do stuff like end grain cutting boards, I waste so much time just sanding end grain cutting boards. Because I mean, I flatten them on my CNC machine, but still just the process of sanding them down and making them smooth it takes hours. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. It can take 1 to 2 hours to sand, go through the grits and sand an end grain cutting board. It can take forever. This sander will cut that time in like a third. It's incredibly powerful and super nice. And so my thought is that I needed to step up to something that was going to allow me to do a lot of sanding, do it really quickly. Like I've got a lot of stuff here, and some of this is really hard, like this oak and this hickory and stuff. It's really super hard, and sanding it, not easy to do and not easy for a regular sander to handle. I needed something that could step up my game and allow me to kind of push through all that sanding stuff, still do a really good job, but be able to get the surface I want in less time. And so I just decided, you know what, I wasn't happy with the Ryobi in that respect. And I said, you know what, let me go ahead and just, I've got a lot of stuff here. I've made some money to reinvest into tools. Let me go ahead and do that. So I've got one, it's coming today. Sad to say, it's not gonna be here yet, but I did get a supply of sandpapers, just like 20 sheets of each, ranging from, I think, when I go from 60 grit up to, we got a 60, 80, 120, 150, and 240. So a pretty good assortment. There's like 20 each. And I figured that would give me enough of the different grits to really see what I wanted to put more money into in terms of discs. So anyway, there you go. So new tool coming, very excited about that. And it hopefully by Wednesday, the next podcast or live stream, we will have that there. So yay! Yay for new tools. I love new tools. Alrighty, but new tools aside, we have some work to do here. And the way that we're gonna do this is, I think I've got, so I've got all these, I've got all the slots cut here. This is a rabbiting bit that goes around the inside and has cut this rabbet on here. Let me give you a little close up so you can see. So there's a rabbet slot cut around the inside of this whole thing here, and basically creates a ledge. And so I need to measure these two dimensions, and then that will give me the rough dimension that I need for putting the lid in here. Then I will cut those. So I cut that down on the table saw. I cut it down on the miter saw to get the length and the width. And then what I do is generally I will round the edges, and I do that over on the circular sander. And I've got the big 12-inch circular sander set up over there. I think it's like right there. So you can see there's the circular sander all ready to do its thing. And then once I get the corners rounded and able to fit this in here, then I will do two things. One is I'll take it to the jointer and flatten it down a little bit. I'll get it close to flush with the jointer. Problem with the jointer is it never does it even. It always takes a little bit more off of one side than the other. It just is the way it is. But then I finish it off. I put it in the base and I finish it off with the hand plane to bring it down to flush, and then we have a fitted lid, and that is the process. They will all need to have the little half circle up top, but I can do that all of them together. It doesn't need to be, you know, individually done. But because all of these are slightly different dimensions, I can't just knock all these out at one time, like all these get cut to 4 5/8. I can't do it that way. I have to individually measure each one, and then I come back and individually do the lengths. So I kind of hop back and forth between the tools. So I think that's where we're at right now, is we're gonna do some hopping, and then we are going to do some sanding. Now I can't get them all cut, and then I can do the corners. So we can just do all the corners at once. And that way I don't have to keep going back and forth to the sander between each one, because that's where I do the corners. So I will go ahead and get all these cut to length and the width. We'll do some individual measurements. And then once we get them cut to length and width, then we can draw the circles on them, or the corners, the rounded corners, and take them all over to the sander, get that working. And then once we have that done, then we can start working on flattening these things, because I can't flatten them until I can actually get them to sit down inside this cutout right here, because they need to sit down in there. I take a pencil and mark the edge so I can see just how much material I can remove on the jointer before I have to bring it back over and do it by hand. It's a lot of work, but you know, in the end, it pays off. They always look great, and so definitely worth the effort. Speaking of worth the effort, coffee, definitely worth the effort. All right, I've got one here. I might as well start with this one. Since it's here, I'm gonna look over here. I've got two blanks right here that we can use. This one's got a little split in the side, so that's kind of concerning, and that would probably be the bottom of one if I did one. To take either that, or I don't know. I need to remove that. Hopefully that crack does not go very deep. If it does, we'll put some filler on there and whatever. Here's another one. Now I don't have a lot of room to spare on these, but as you can hopefully see, there's basically about 1/8 of an inch too much on the width here, and on the length, I've got about 1/2 an inch to trim off on the length. So let me find my ruler. Here it is. And let's start with the width of this and measure that. And I only want one of these for the moment because I don't want to get confused as to which one I'm working on. So this is just a hair under 4 3/8. And the same, it's basically exactly 4 3/8. So not quite 100% square, but pretty close. I mean, it's like a 64th off here. So if I go just under 4 3/8, I should be able to get this to fit. And so what I'm going to do is take this over to the table saw. Let me trying to get everything as fluid as possible here. Now, what I can do is I can do all of my cuts the same way. So I can do all of my width cuts. I can do all those on the table saw first, and then come back and do all of the stuff on the compound miter saw after the fact. So I can kind of batch these things. I don't have to bounce back and forth all the time. But what I do need to do, excuse me, finish this coffee because it's delicious. Okay, coffee's done. And I'm going to come over to the table saw over here and get it set up for running. So we're going to plug that in over here. We'll just plug that in. And we're going to set this to, of course, I forgot my ruler. So for this particular base, we said 4 3/8, just under 4 3/8. So I would rather go to 4 3/8 exactly, and then I can, from there, I can lower it down. I can make it a little bit less and a little bit less until I get it just right. So just kind of like what we call that sneaking up on it. So if I need to take a little tiny bit off of it, that's okay. My blade depth is fine. I have a flat edge here. This has not been surfaced yet, so this is still rough, but this edge is surfaced. And this is, let me find, this is a nice clean edge here. So this has been jointed. So we'll make this go against the fence and this side down, and that should give us a nice, we go here, I'm going to run it through this way. All right, let's just go ahead and get this one cut, and then we'll check the fit, and then what we will do is we'll go on and move on to the next one and get it fit width-wise as well. But that's probably the easiest way to do this. Let me find my remote. Okay, so for this, all I need to do is check to make sure that it fits in. So I can set it in that little gap slot right there and check the fit, which is nice there, but then I slide it forward and then check this side. So you notice this side that's pretty tight, but I think that's okay. I think that'll work. So it's a tight fit. I mean, it's not like sticky tight. It's just there's not a lot of slop in there. So I think this is good. So I'm gonna leave this one here. And we're just gonna kind of try to keep these things grouped together here because I don't want to mix up which one goes with which. All right, so I've got another, hang on a second. I'm gonna set this over here. What happened? I lost all my windows. Hang on. But I'm going to set this over here, and then we can, it'll be easier for me to measure things. So for this one, I can do the same thing. I'm just going to measure this, see what we need here. And this one looks to be exactly 4 3/8. So let's go ahead and get this piece right here. Now this one also, this side has been finished. So it's fairly flat. Actually, it's not flat at all. I need to flatten this. I should flatten this first. I'm going to run over to the jointer real quick. And I don't know if it's kind of, let me zoom out over here. So the jointer's over here. I'm going to just walk over to the jointer real quick and flatten this edge. I'm going to flatten one side really quickly over here. Here, I'll push this out of the way for a moment. And I'm just going to flatten this because it's a little wonky. It needs to be flat. I need at least one flat side to start with. Okay, that is flat. And you know what? Let me go ahead and get an edge here really quick, just so that I have one nice flat edge. All right, now we have our dimension here, and we can run this through. I got a little piece of wood right there. Get out of there. We can run this through. I'm going to check this measurement here. 4 3/8 is what I said. And we want this to be, that's pretty good right there. So flat side, flat edge. Let's clean this up. I didn't want to take too much off at the joiner. Oh, you can't see me. I didn't want to take too much off at the joiner because I need to leave some thickness on here. But what I couldn't have was something wonky on here. I needed it to have one flat side, and that's the side we're going to push through the saw right here. All right. Then what we'll do is we'll check fit on this just to make sure that it is what we need. So just like before, I'm just going to take this and fit it this side and this side. And if there's a little wiggle room, that's fine. I don't really care. I mean, you have to remember, I'm also going to put finish on these things. So it'll build up a little bit more thickness when there's a few layers of lacquer on here. So that's okay if they're not super tight. So these are done. Now I need to do the cherry. And they are over here. Hang on, I've got a lot of stuff around here. So let me just kind of rearrange some bases and such here. All right, so here is a cherry base. And I've got two lids here that will work. I'm going to have to flatten these as well. I think this one's flat, but this one, you can see saw marks on here, which tells me that this is not a flattened side. Even though this is rough, this has not been flattened. So it needs to be, we'll start with this one though. It has a little crack in here. And that crack is still going to make its way into the lid. So we'll have to watch that. I might put some super glue in there just to make sure that it holds together after the fact. But for now, let's measure this width. Let me make sure this is flat. I might have to take this one over to the jointer as well. Yeah, this is not flat. So I'm going to take this over to the jointer and do the same thing we just did. And the thing is, I cut these a while ago, so they might, over time, I think they've kind of moved a little bit, and they're not as flat as they should be. So let's go ahead and just make this one a little bit flat. And actually, let's do this. Let me find my pencil, and I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to put a pencil mark. Ooh, that's really bright. I don't know why that's so bright. Anyway, I put a pencil mark on there, and we're gonna knock that pencil mark down. But that lets me know that I've got it flat across the entire surface. Okay, that did what we wanted. It didn't take much. And a second here, where's my little, I need a little stick here. There we go. I need my camera changing stick. Boom. Just makes life easier. All right, so for this one, let's measure what we've got here. So pretty similar on these. That 4 3/8 mark is pretty darn close on all these. So we're just going to leave it where it is. And now you can see this actually has the blue mark on this side here. So this definitely is going to get trimmed off at some point in time. All right, that's nice and flat on the table. That's what we wanted. It's so funny. I cut this cherry and it's just like butter compared to that stuff. All right, this is fine. We need one more to go here in terms of fitting. And that's this rough one. Now I'm going to take this back over to the, this one's coming back over to the thing here because this has nothing. I mean, you can see this is all rough. But it's super rough over here. So I'm going to clean this part up, make it flat, and then we can take it over to the saw and get the proper width. All right, so I've got one flat side here, one flat edge here. We can run that through the saw now, and that will take care of that dimension. We also need to just measure this and make sure. This one's actually wider than 4 3/8, so I'm gonna need to change it. This one is about a 1/16 wider, so I need to change this. I do not need to undercut this one size-wise. Check this again. So 4 3/8 is a 16. All right, let's try that. It's about a 1/16 wider than those last ones. Where's my, there we go. Let's see what we got here. All righty. That is a little bit wide, just a tiny bit wide. So we're going to need to shave off just a hair off of here. So let's set this up. That I'm just going to shave it off. That's why I did it this way, so that it just makes life a little easier. We can sneak up on that correct width on this thing. Okay, that should be correct. All right, well, now all of these have what we need. We need to go over to the saw over here and cut these down to size. That'd be the compound miter saw. So we're going to go over to there. There's the compound miter over there. So I have to set that up, which means I need to hook up the dust collection, and I need to hook up the power to get it running. All right. So give me just a moment to get all these good things hooked up. All right, we've got dust collection, and we need a little bit of juice. And okay, and get rid of all the scrap stuff that's sitting here. Put that in the scrap box. All right, I'm gonna switch over to this camera for a moment. So what we need to do now is get my computer out of the way, and we need to figure out what our length is now on these. So I'm just gonna take this one that's on top here, and we're gonna measure, and we're gonna mark this. This particular one, and I've got a little, hang on a second. Got some wood putty in here that I used to fill up some stuff here, but I don't want it to screw up my dimensions here. Cleaning out the little wood putty. All right, so we're just going to measure this lengthwise. So that is 7 and a hair under 5/8, and almost exactly 5/8 here. And that's the thing, I always measure it, like I'll measure one side and then I move down and I measure the other side, because if it's not perfectly square, I'd rather get have the longest measurement in there. I'd rather cut it just a hair too long than a hair too short. All right, so 7, I'm gonna start at 7 and 5/8. We'll start at 7 and 5/8. Now this is a nasty piece of wood right here, all this junky, cruddy stuff. I'm gonna put this edge down on the table of the miter saw, and this against the back edge of the fence. So I'm going to mark across the top here. The other thing is I need to make sure that I've got a square. This has to be square. So I don't know how square this is. I guess I could take my square and check it, right? But I'm looking and it's not very square. So I'm going to square this edge up first over at the saw. Then we're going to come back, make a mark, and we're going to cut this to be the correct size. So let me go over here and just clean up this edge. I'm just taking a little tiny bit off, but we do want this to be clean. Oh, I need my remote. Need my dust remote. All right, so now, things being equal, I should have one nice square edge, which if I can find my square, I can check that. And that is perfectly square now. So now I can measure that, that length again, which was the 7 5/8, I believe. And we will make a mark across here at 7 5/8. I'm just going to put a pencil mark on that. And then I'll draw the line across with my square. So that's not a great mark. Get another mark here. There we go. That's the mark I want. So take this. Now by doing that, what I'm doing, I'm getting rid of all this like this. You can see there's some really rough and chipped wood and stuff, but my mark is right here. That's going to get rid of most of that. Plus, it's still fairly thick. This is only going to be 1/4 of an inch, so I'm going to lose all of this rough stuff up top. So I think I should be in good shape with this. So let's go back over and trim this down. Then we'll check it just like we checked the other one and make sure that it fits. So what I'm going to do is try to get right to the edge of that line. And then we'll just do a check fit right here. And it is a hair long, which is fine. Like I said, I'd rather nibble into this thing. So it looks like I'm about 1/16 too long in one spot. So let's just keep nibbling this thing until it fits. How about that? Okay, so just so you can see, if I take it and drop it into the slot here, it fits in there pretty well. There's a little bit of looseness in there, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be like a perfect fit. It just needs to be close. A little play is okay. So we got it that way, we've got it fitting this way, and we've got it fitting this way. So this one is done, except for like drawing the circles or the corners. And we're going to bring this one out here. And little Mr. Spider, you need to move elsewhere because you're not welcome. Okay, this one, I believe also I need to square up one edge first. Yeah, definitely need to square an edge. think this was my squared up side. So I'm going to square this up and then we will measure. So that's kind of what we need to do with these. All right, and I'm just going to check that really quick. Nice. All right, now we need a length of less than 7 5/8 on this one. Not much, but a little less than 7 5/8. So I'm going to go 7 5/8 and then I'm going to sneak up on it. So I'm going to go ahead and make my mark here. Is this my right side? Yeah. So I'm going to make my mark and then we'll have to go back and trim a little of the fat off, but that's okay because I can get much more accurate that way. All right. Make my mark here. All right, there's mark. And now let's go trim this up and see what we've got to work with. So we'll be over here. So the big thing is make sure you cut on the correct side of the line so you don't screw yourself up. All right. All righty. That one, that one. All right, let's try a couple of these hickory ones here. I mean, this is working pretty quickly, right? We're doing all right. My son's car still here? Shouldn't he be gone? Crap. All right, give me just a second. I will be right back. I have to go yell at my son, who should have been gone to work already, and he's not. Because, you know, kids, right? Where is that stupid... Oh, where'd it go? Oh, come on, I had it here. There it is. All right, give me a second. I will be right back. All right, he was actually awake, so that's a good thing. A good thing. All right, so I've got my, my flat side here. It's so rough. But we need a square side, and we don't really have one of those. So I'm gonna make this my square side right here, maybe? I don't know, let's see. Which side do I wanna use as my, doesn't really matter, I still need to square one side. So I'm gonna square up this side right here, and then we'll come back and do our measurements again. So we get that done. All right. Okay. Yeah, this stuff is a little chippy when it runs through there. Just, whew. I've talked about the lovely benefits of working with hickory, which I can't actually find any benefits of working with hickory. It's a pain in the ass. All right. So once again, I mean, all my measurements are pretty close to being the same here. So 7 5/8 is what I'm looking at here. I'm going to make a measurement off of here, do 7 5/8 off of here. And then, like I said, we'll just shave it down as neat. Where did I put my pencil? Okay, there it is, over there. They're all pretty close. I mean, I make these to the same dimensions. So like I said, sometimes if they're not perfect, they're not far from the dimension that the others are. Sometimes they're off by like maybe a 1/16 of an inch or whatever, and that's just through like wood movement and other such things. All right, so we're going to cut all this rough wood off the end here, and then we'll come back and check it, see what we got. All right, that should be enough shaving off of that end. Let's see here. Yep, so that fits nicely in there. I tell you, that's so funny. You're cutting that hickory stuff. So much harder on the tools. I can just feel the saw blade working so hard to get through that stuff. All right, we need to square an edge. So I think, yeah, let's square off an edge here, then we'll do some measurements just like we did last time. Probably something I need to get, as well as a new crosscut blade. That's the original blade. And I mean, it's okay, but I would like to get something that is a little bit sharper, much like my table saw blade here, which, I mean, it's probably going to cost me about $100 for a blade, but it's worth the money. Because you can get them resharpened and they last a lot longer. And look at that, 7 5/8, go figure. So it's worth the investment. Just like my table saw blade is, I love my table saw blade. It is really good. I think it's a Ridge carbide is what it is. And you can buy them in, obviously that's a 10-inch blade, but you can also buy them in 12-inch blades for things like your crosscut saws. And basically I just need a nice general purpose, they're kind of usually like an 80 tooth or whatever, they're very fine tooth. Who is the maker of my blade? Excuse me. trying to remember who my blade maker is here. I'm just gonna, yeah, so Ridge Carbide. I was right. Great thing is you can send these into them and they'll resharpen the carbide bits on them. Oh, the carbide, I say bits, the carbide teeth. They will resharpen them for you. I don't think for free, but still for a lot less than the cost of a new blade, which is not cheap. I think I paid $110 for that 10-inch one. All right, that's what we wanted right there. So we got that done. Now we move on to the sanding portion of our lids. Yeah. And I'm just going to set up the camera here real quickly because we'll be working over here. So when I get ready to do these, we can just hop into it. But that means I also need to take the, actually, hang on a second, a lot of dust here. So much better. What in the world is up in there flopping around? I need to empty this thing, but I think we've still got enough to do what I want here. I'm going to rotate this around. Which would be the best way to go here? This way. All right, and we're going to just insert this into here. And then we're going to need some power for this. And then we'll be all set for doing that. So I'm going to draw all these circles on here first. And then we'll come over to the, we'll come back to the, whatchamacallit, to the sander and get those all done. But let me just kind of get these all set around here because this one done. I need to get this one out of the way for just a moment here. I'm going to put it over by the table saw or the bandsaw. Get it out of the way because I need some space to do my work here, because this is where I draw the little rounded corners. There you go. It's a nickel. That's what I use, a nickel and a pencil. And we're just gonna match that up into the corner here and draw a radius. And that's all we're doing, is we're just drawing a little circle radius. And that's a guide for me to use over on the sander and remove material. This is the fastest way that I have found to do this. I could do it on the bandsaw, but honestly, it's so much easier just to sand down to my pencil marks using the circular sander over there, that I don't even want to try another method because it just works really well. And there we go. So there's one. And I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm going to grab these and just mark them all. The other nice thing is because there's a flat table on that sander right there, that I can use the flat reference surface of the lids that I've cut here, there is a flat surface on the lids because they've been jointed on one side, and that means I'll get a pretty square edge when I go to sand these things. So, go. And then I usually, as I'm going, I'll check fit on them just to make sure that that they do fit. The nice thing is that, like I said, I've done this so many times, and I know for a fact that that 1/4-inch rabbet bit, when you go into a corner, it creates a radius that is the exact same radius as a nickel. So it's kind of a nice standardized size for me. That has helped so much because I don't have to reinvent the wheel every time I do this. I know exactly what size radius I'm going to need when I use that rabbeting bit, and I use it for the bottoms. When I cut the plywood to put into the bottoms of the base, I use that same 1/4-inch rabbeting bit, and I use the same nickel to round those little pieces of plywood to fit in the bottoms. So it comes in handy. Like I said, it's just kind of a standard measurement thing, and it works really well. So when you find something that works, just, you know what, there's no sense in looking for something new. It already works, right? Don't reinvent the wheel. Speaking of reinventing the wheel, I saw a really cool YouTube video this weekend of Michelin has actually reinvented the wheel. I take that back. They didn't reinvent the wheel. They reinvented the tire. So if you're using, for using tires, they reinvented tires. And they're really cool looking. But they have these ribbed fins on the inside. There's no sealed side with air or anything to hold it in. They ride on these ribbed, there's a regular tread goes around on the outside, and on the inside are all these ribs that they ride on, like little fins that go around the entire circumference of the tire. It's so cool. So you should probably expect to see those in a couple of years. And the nice thing is they don't go flat. They are made from recycled material. Oh, this is gonna be hard because this one is a little rough here. So this might be a little difficult. Hang on a second. This one might be difficult. A little chipped corner here. All right, well, that'll have to do. We'll have to make sure we're careful on this corner. But anyway, so they didn't reinvent the wheel, but they did reinvent the tire, and it is really super cool. So if you get a chance, just Google it or whatever. But it was Michelin. So it was a thing in Germany. They were showing it off. All right, I'm going to start with this one because it had a rough edge that I had to work through, and I'm hoping I can follow that radius pretty well. All right, so we're going to go over to the sander over here and should be able to get these things knocked out. Like I said, I'm going to check fit these in their particular bases once I get them done on the sander, and that way I know that they fit. And once they fit into the round over slot, the rabbeting edge where they need to go, the ledge. Once they fit in there nicely, then we can start on flattening these things and getting them flush. But for right now, we need to get them rounded so they'll actually fit. We know they fit length and width, but the corners, not yet. All right, I'm going to turn on this, and the dust collection needs to go on. So let me find my remote here. All right, so I'm going to take this over to, well, you can't really see. Hang on a second. I'll bring this over here, and I'm going to test fit this. Which way do I want this? I have to go this way. So I'm going to test fit this, and pretty good fit. So there you go. You can see that's what we're looking for. It's obviously it's too thick, right? But it fits in the corners, and that's what we're looking for. And we can now move on to the next one. So I'm just going to grab one of these and go back over here and keep going. All right. Go check. That one's good. Okay, so we'll grab another. Another. Right. that should be the last of them. It is, fits. All right, so you can see here, we've got all of these things fit in here. Obviously, they're all too tall, but that's okay because now we can start measuring exactly how much material needs to be removed from these things in order to get them to fit flush into the bases here. Let me take this down. Now, what I am going to have to do is, yes, I'm just going to move this power out and get rid of the sander, move it out of the way, because I am going to have to come over to the jointer. I will use the jointer for removing some of the excess stock off of these things. And then we'll move on to like the hand plane. This is actually where having that Bosch sander would come in real handy, because once I get them close with the jointer, I could take it down to almost exact. I could still remove stock with the Bosch sander and get it almost flush, and then kind of finish off things with my number 62 there. So that is kind of what I'm really excited about. Yeah, and I just wish, unfortunately, I was just looking a moment ago at my stuff here, and it's like, oh, your stuff's gonna get here at like by 10 o'clock tonight. And I was like, no, come on, how about like now? That would be so awesome if you did it now, but no. Wouldn't it be awesome if it was right now? It would, wouldn't it? But it just says on the way by 10 p.m. So, what are you going to do? It's out for delivery. That's all I can do. But what I can do is grab this pencil and then start tracking around the interior. Now, one thing I want to do, this is the front of my base. I'm going to look at the front of my base, and I'm going to make sure that this is the direction. I want to make sure that I have this in the direction, the orientation that I want for putting this into the table or into the base here. And by orientation, I mean, do I want it this way? Do I want it this way? I'm pretty sure, and it's got a hefty little crack in here. So I'm going to have to super glue this thing. It's not huge, but there is a tiny little crack. I don't want that crack expanding. So once I get this flattened down, I will super glue this just to make sure that it's stable and doesn't move. I don't mind flaws in the wood like that because to me, it just looks cool. But I also don't want it to crack open and be destroyed, which is why I would use something along the lines of super glue to reinforce the wood inside there and keep it from cracking. Anyway, this looks like the orientation that I want this thing, so I'm going to take my pencil and start drawing. I'm just tracing around the edge of the lid using the sides as a guide so that I know exactly where I can take this down to. So really what I've done is, I'll show you right here. You can see that there's now a line on there, and that line goes all the way around, and in turn that helps me to know how far down I can remove stock on here without going too low. If I go too low, now I'm in danger of, I'll have to remove stock on the edges, which I don't want to do. So I always go just above that line, and that lets me know that I've still got a little bit left that I can remove, but I do it by hand. And I'm going to start with the cherry because honestly, the cherry is the easiest to work with. And I say that, not necessarily always the easiest to work with, but let's see. We're going to take this over to the jointer and remove some stock and get it down to size. Now this is the part of this process that takes a while. What we just did in cutting them and sizing them and everything, that's a piece of cake compared to what we're getting ready to do now. This takes a while. Can't really see me, can you? How about I switch cameras? There we go. Tip it. Oh, frick me. All right. Okay, so I've taken this down about as close as I want to get to that line, and I'll show you. It's still there, but it's just like a 1/16 of an inch or less. So when I set this into my stock like this, there we go. I still have a little bit. I mean, there's a little bit all the way around here, but now I can do a controlled removal of stock. I actually have this center section raised on my table because that allows me to push against there. I need to make sure, hang on a second, that I'm pushing in the direction of the grain wants to go. Don't fight the grain when you're using your hand plane. Use the grain as your friend. There we go. So we're just going to start removing stock now. This is slow and takes some time. But this is how we're going to get this down. I'm going to move this bench out of the way here. And just kind of go across the surface here. And I'm just going to toss these into the box. So they're nice and wide shavings that I'm getting here. For the most part. Yeah. Why do I charge so much for my bases? Probably because I'm doing stuff like this. Because it's hard work. That's why. You want a cheap base? Get yourself some wood and some nails and make one. If you want a nice one, call me. I'll make one for you. And I'll charge the appropriate amount of money. All right, let's see what we're doing here. Really close on this edge, a little taller here. Still pretty much some stock removal over here to happen. So just kind of keep checking all the edges. But I like this with the long sole because it makes sure that it's flat. Getting close here. Still got some stuff to remove over here. Pretty close. Okay, that looks pretty good. And I will sand this, so a lot of that will actually come down and be flush. Speaking of sanding, go ahead and just kind of give it a little sand here for a minute. Oops. All right. Just real quick with the sander. I kind of ran around the edge because I put some grain filler just in some slots here, and just to fill those up and make sure they look good. But anyway, that is that's what we're after right there. You can see that's a nice looking lid on there now. We still need to be able to lift this thing out, so we'll put our little bitty thing up here. But this is nice and flush now, and I also need to. Actually, you know what? Before I forget, I'm going to go get my super glue, and I'm just going to put a couple of drops in there. Because like I said, the big thing is that I want that to be stable. And I don't want that crack to move up into the wood. And by using the super glue, I think that does a pretty good job of keeping it that way. I've actually got a piece of paper towel here I'm going to just put underneath there, just to make sure I don't get any on the table itself, or the base, or the table. But I'm just going to drop it in here. Oh yeah, just flowing into that crack. That crack was actually much larger than I thought, but I'm just going to put this here and put a little in the end. There we go. And then what I can do is, I didn't bring it over, but I'm gonna go grab it real quick, which is my instant curing spray, which means it'll still be curing on the inside, but it'll keep the outside from sticking to anything. So we're gonna give this a quick spray. There we go. All right, now we can just set this on the side and let that dry. And once we sand this all down, it'll look fine. But for now, that's perfect. All right, so that one's done. We've got another cherry, and I think I'm going to stick with the cherries for the time being, just because they are easier to work with. The ones that I'm dreading are the hickory ones, because I know they're just going to be a pain in the rear end. So I'm going to mark my sides here. Is this the way I want this to go? Do I want it to go this way? I kind of like it this way. So I'm going to mark my edges just like we did the last one. Just so I know how far I can take this thing down on the jointer. And then we'll bring it over here, do the hand plane thing. But you can see, you know, it's a bit of a process to get all this done. It's not easy. All right, there's about an equal amount all the way around on this one. It needs to come off. So I need to look at which way. I think this way. The other thing is that some of this grain undulates, so finding the correct orientation on the jointer is a pain in the rear sometimes. Let's take this over and see what we can get here. Out on me, not cool. All right, so I was getting a little chip out when I was running it through, and one way to kind of combat the chip out is to just lower the cut height of the jointer so it's taking an even smaller bite out of the wood, and that's what I ended up doing. Which way is the grain running here? So I need to do this one. I need to flip this around. If I want it to go that way, I'm gonna have to flip this direction to make sure that I'm getting my cuts in with the grain, not against it. We're just gonna start working the edges here. Takes a minute to start getting some biting as it starts getting flatter and flatter. This one also has a chip. I'll move this down just a little bit. This one also has a little bit of a chip, or not a chip, but a split. So I'll do the same thing with the super glue on this one that I did on the last one. All right, getting close. Still high on this edge over here. Pretty good. Okay. All righty, I think we got this one. Pretty good. Right there. There we go. There. Yep. All righty. Yes, I am breathing hard. Haven't done this in a while. All right, hang on a second. And I need to blow my nose. It's a thing. It is a thing. All right, hang on a second. I'm gonna mute you all for a second. So also, the amount of work I'm putting into these things is a testament to the fact that I need to sharpen my blade a little bit. Probably. But anyway, let's just run it with the sander just a little, just to kind of see what we got here. Okay, pretty good. Not unhappy with that. Still needs a little bit more sanding, but we'll take care of that later. The one thing I need to take care of right now is the split in here. And I don't know if you can see that. Right on this edge, you see that little crack right there? We're gonna solidify that with some super glue again. So I'm gonna get my piece of paper here, and we're just gonna put this super glue down in that crack. And I don't know if you can see it any better this way, but I'm just gonna put drops in there, and it actually just sucks down into that hole. And really what I want to do is get it so that it goes all the way to the extent of that crack, all the way inside that crack, because that will keep it from splitting in the future, and will be a much nicer fix for us. And then I'm going to hit it with the spray here. The spray is nice because now I can touch this and there's no super glue that's going to, it's like instantly cures whatever's on the outside. And that is what is of extreme benefit to us, because it means that we won't be sticking to anything else when we're setting this down to dry. It's basically going to cure on the inside, but not screw us up by sticking to anything on the outside that we don't want stuck to. All right. Well, now I'm at the point where, once again, I'm at my point of dread, because I have this hickory, hickory, hickory. You thought I was going to say dickory dock, didn't you? Fooled you. Let me get this oriented the way I want it to go. God, this is a heavy, I got the wrong one, sorry. This is a heavy beast of a base right here. This thing is very heavy. I've got this kind of cool, like a cathedral-y shape. This is sapwood and heartwood, and I kind of got that cool look there. When there's a lot of this kind of look to this stuff, it kind of changes colors and stuff. So it's going to be an interesting base, but I think I kind of like it like that. I just like the cathedrals going up. This one actually has a little crack in here too, so we're going to have to fix that one as well. Good God, so many little pieces of cracked stuff. This is our flattened piece right here. Wow, and it's all chipped and not in great shape. Let me see something here. I have a cabinet scraper here that you can use to fix problem pieces of wood, like little, where you're getting some chip out and stuff. A lot of times a cabinet scraper does a nice job of cleaning up any scuffs or scratches. This stuff, basically what happens is, when it went through the jointer, it just was chipping in areas. So I can try to just use this to flatten it out and make it look a little prettier. And it's basically, when you have one of these sharpened, it's like using a little mini planer. But that fixed it a little bit. Let me see if I'm going to sand this just a hair. It's not going to do much, but I'm going to sand it just a little bit. No, I didn't do that on the other one, on any of the other ones, but they weren't chipped up like this one is. Let me show you. I don't know if you can see the chipping in here. It's kind of hard to see, but all along through here is a little bit of chipping in there. And probably if I have the other sander, I could fix that. I don't have it right now. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably not going to get these all the way down to flush yet. I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to get my lines drawn. Is that flat on there? See, now it's not flat on there. So it needs to be flat in here, which means it's high on an end. So I'm going to run this over to the jointer and I'm going to try to flatten this out just a tiny bit more. I'm going to do a really light pass on it. Hopefully a very light pass on this one side will not chip out more, and it'll give me a, because I'm just not flat. And it needs to be flat to sit in that groove. Yeah, that actually cleaned it up pretty nice, I have to say. That actually did a pretty good job. I lowered that blade down, so it's just taking super light cuts, and that actually did a pretty good job. So now, this should fit nice and flush and flat in here. It's not tipping like it was a minute ago. And now I can mark this off. And then we can start removing stock from the other side. Now, before I really get to that, I need to go and empty my dust collector, and I need to clean out my chute. That did actually a really super nice job. I don't know if you could remember what it looked like before, but that's actually pretty clean right now. That looks pretty good, not too bad. But anyway, my dust collector needs to be cleaned out, and the chute in there needs to be cleaned out because I've got chips flying back out the top. And when I get that, that means my dust chute is kind of clogged up and full. So I need to empty the dust collector, which is never a fun thing to do, but it's full. As you can see, lots of stuff in here. It's basically over full. So I'm going to bring that over to the garbage can here and throw a lot of dust in the air, unfortunately. It's what it is. But it means that I now have an empty collector that I can vacuum up some of this stuff out of the chute and get that cleaned out. All right, that's much more efficient now. All right, I've got my lines drawn on my, got the lines drawn on here, and we can start trying to flatten this out looking for the grain direction. And let's see what we can do here. Okay, so hopefully you didn't probably see it, but you see me moving my paddle around to different spots. Oh, Goldman, 2678. Hey, how you doing? Right now, what I'm doing is creating lids for these bases. So I've got these rabbet cuts right here, and I've cut these pieces of wood and rounded the corners, and now I'm getting them to fit in there, and now I have to get them flush to the surface of the surrounding wood. So that's what I'm doing. It's this is hickory, so really difficult. And I apologize if I didn't see you in there before, because I don't always have my eye on the stream, although I try to keep it on there. But what am I looking at? So this is the way this fits. And I try to apply pressure to the different parts of the board as I'm running it through the jointer. That's why you can't flatten. You can flatten one side with a jointer, but you can't make parallel sides with a jointer because you can't, there's no reference for it. So the pressure pushes on different points of the wood and it'll never be parallel to the other side. That's why you need a planer. If you're going to be flattening wood and getting parallel sides, you need a planer for that. But I just needed to get it close, and then I can run through with my hand plane and struggle mightily with this because I know this is going to be, oh, like that. Oh my God, look at that. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's tearing the wood too. So let me try the other direction. It's really hard sometimes to get a bead, if you will, on the direction the wood wants to be cut. It likes this direction more, even though looking at the side grain, it looked like this was not the preferred direction. Sometimes wood just does what wood wants to do. But this is going to take me a while because it's hickory. Now, one thing I could do, I might actually just do this. I didn't want to. What time is it? 1 o'clock. So in order to make my life a little bit easier, it is cutting a little nicer like that. But I have 2 of these hickory lids to do. So I'm going to reach in here and get this, which holds my sharpening stones. And I think I'm just going to use my 1000 and just kind of give this blade just a touch up here, just to make my life a little bit easier. It doesn't need to be like totally resharpened, but I'm going to give it just a touch up because I'm telling you, this hickory is a bad mamma jamma. It is not nice. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this blade out. Ooh, a little dirty. And set up my jig here and then just do a really quick touch up on this blade. And I think that will aid in getting this thing set up. Okay, what are you doing here? What are you doing? It's the wrong way. Turn it back around. There we go. So I've got a really nice jig for this. This is a Veritas Sharpening Jig. And this is the Veritas Sharpening Jig. If you do any hand tool sharpening, be it planer blades or chisels or whatever, I'm going to tell you that this thing is amazing and you should have one. Slide this in and you just slide it up to the mark and it automatically sets your depth exactly where it should be. And you get your blade nice and square in the jig. So we're just going to tighten this down. And I've got mine set to 25 degrees. And then we just remove this setup guide like that. And now my blade is set to the perfect 25-degree bevel. So I'm just going to get myself a little bit of oil here. Like I said, I'm not doing a whole resharpen. I'm just kind of touching up the edge here just to give me a little bit of a better cutting edge for this hickory because it is not great. So I'm going to go ahead and actually flatten the back side of this really quick. I have to actually move it off to the side here. So I'm just going to flatten that back side really quickly here. and then I'll flip it over and do the top here. But so all I'm doing is I'm just running the flat side of the blade onto the sharpening stone, and that gives it a nice flat surface to grind to. This is a bevel up blade, as opposed to a lot of planers are beveled down. So in a lot of planers, the bevel goes down and you're cutting basically with that front edge. This is a bevel up, so you get a little bit more of a sharp cutting surface, but it takes a little bit more maintenance to keep your angle and your blade really nice. So I'm just going to run this through here and get my edge a little bit sharper than it was. I'm not going to take a lot of time on this because it's already sharp. I'm just, like I said, all I'm doing is giving it just a little bit of a fresh edge on there. And I'm using my 1000 grit diamond stone. I actually have some whetstones. I just don't want to deal with the whetstones right now because, well, it's kind of a pain in the rear to deal with whetstones. So usually if I'm going to sharpen, I just set up for a day of sharpening, just so that I can only mess with it one time. I'm going to flip my stone around here, and we will just hit this again over here. And I think, looking at that edge, should be pretty good. And the only thing I don't have is a piece of, there we go, piece of paper towel. I like to clean off my edges here just to see what they look like. It's nice and clean. I mean, when I run it on my 8000 grit stone, it's like super polished and looks fantastic. But like I said, we're not going for that right now. Knock off any burr on there. That should actually be nice and sharp now. And I'm going to get the honing scrap out, and we will just kind of hit this edge with the honing scrap. So I'm going to take this out. Like I said, usually I'll take a little bit of time and do a much more thorough job, but I just want to put a little bit of an edge back on here. That's all I'm after. So let me get my strap out here, get my compound, move this out of the way. I'll clean it up later. That's what I always say. Oh, I'll clean it up later. But we'll take a little of the polishing compound right here and the stropping compound, whatever you want to call it. Excuse me. I'm just going to put this on this piece of leather. And I am just going to drop the edge here. Like I said, it's not going to be mirror sharp, but it should give me a nice sharp edge. And that's really what I need to tackle this hickory, is just a nice sharp edge. Okay, we'll mess with that stuff later. So we can put this back in. Set this back in. You need to get it straight, and then we'll put the top cap back on there, the lever cap, and tighten that down. And then I'm just going to check it for straightness across the opening there. And that looks pretty good. Okay. And then last thing I'm going to do is just check to see if it's cutting. A little bit. See now, like I said, some of this wood, especially this hickory, it really just decides which way it wants to be cut. So if you try to cut it one way and it says no, try it the other, but sometimes there's just no easy way. But anyway, that's pretty good. I can take this down a little thinner now. That was a pretty thick cut. And I think, hang on a second, let me open the throat, clean it out. And I'm going to take a little bit thinner cut. I'm just going to raise the blade up just a tiny bit, pull it back in, take a little bit less cut. There we go. We just want super thin shavings. That should be good enough for what I need to do here. So let's give it a shot and see. This wants to be more cooperative now. That's pretty good, right? Much better. Better than it was. Oh, I tell you, man, this hickory is a bear. Even with a pretty darn sharp blade, it's hard. And this is heartwood, so it's actually harder than this. This is the sapwood, is the lighter color. Oh my God. This is where having that new sander will be such a pleasure. I mean, I'm not getting very thick cuts. This stuff is pretty thin. I don't know if you can see that, but that is a pretty thin little slice I'm taking out of this. But even then, this stuff is so hard to work with. We may just get it close, wait for my new sander to come in. And then, I mean, pretty thin, right? You can see my finger behind there, right? So that's pretty thin. So I'm not taking big chunks out of this stuff. It's just such a tough wood species. Props to you, hickory. You are a bad mamma jamma. Oh my God. Crazy. All right, there's one other thing I can do to make my life a little bit easier, and that is, I don't have a candle out here. Some people keep a candle with their hand planes for the purpose of putting wax on the bottom. I don't have a candle, but I do have wax. So I will get some Minwax polishing wax, Johnson's paste wax, whatever you have. I'm just going to get a little teeny bit of this, and we're going to put it on the bottom of the plane. And that's going to just reduce friction as we are running across the wood surface. So that really, the only thing that should be generating any friction in here should be the blade against the wood grain. So we're just going to get this covered. We'll leave it sit for just a moment. And then we can buff it off, and that'll make life a little bit easier for us. This actually does not have that much farther to go. I got this down pretty good. and kind of surprised by that. At what point do I say forget it and sand it down? Well, it depends. So it depends on if you have a sander that will actually do that. Like I do not have a Festool Rotex, but so you probably missed the beginning of my stream where I showcased the fact that I've got a, woohoo, see that? It's a 6-inch sanding disc. You know what I don't have? I don't have the sander that goes with that, but it's coming. It's coming today. There is a, I've got a Bosch, what is that, GET 75, which is a gear-driven rotary sander. And that should deal with surface removal, you know, and actually help me to flatten things down a little bit. So I'm just trying to get a lot of the wood off of here. I don't want the sander to go too much. Problem with sanding is it's fine if you have a little bit of surface to take down. If you've got a big wide surface and you want to keep it flat, with a sander you can risk getting an uneven surface. And when you're removing material and then you're getting into these edges where I don't really want material removed from these edges either. I want these to be exactly where they are. I mean, I want them to be sanded but not lowered down. I don't want to change the dimension of them. And you risk that when you start using your sander as material removal, because that pad's going to come over and encroach on these edges. So you kind of got to be careful and watch that. I mean, I could just take it out, right, and then sand it down on a flat surface. But the whole point is to get it flush with these edges. So that's really why I use the plane for a lot of this, because I'm trying to get it flushed down. But yes, I do have the new sander coming today. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of at the point where this is my only sander, is this Ryobi, and it's fine for finish work, but it sucks for any type of serious sanding. It's really, it does not get my seal of approval. I don't recommend it. I had a skill sander that was so much better until it died, but honestly, I had it for like 2 or 3 years and it was a beast, and it cost like $40 and the thing just worked. I've had now a Rigid and a Ryobi, and they all just kind of suck. I'm not sure why, but they are not great. I mean, they're fine for finish sanding when, you know, you finish at like, you know, 180 or 200, 220, something like that. They're fine for that, but for any type of material removal, they're garbage. So that's why I went with the big boy. Like I said, it costs more, but it's not Festool money. It's like half the cost of the Festool. And so even though that's expensive, Festool's $600. I looked, $600, there's like no way. Ooh, look at that, whoop, slides right across now. So really the only thing now is, like I said, the only thing that's really impacting this is the depth of cut from my blade and that running across the surface of the wood. So much smoother now. And that's what a little bit of wax on your plane does wonders. I kind of forget that at times. I'll just get busy and things will get hard and I'll be like, why is this so hard? That's because I need to wax up the sole of the plane, but I forget about that sometimes. Whoa, good God. Got things around my feet there and I just about tripped. So pretty close to flush here. I wish I could come from this direction, but this wood just does not want to be cut from that direction. So we'll just kind of take what it gives us. Oh, and that heartwood is really tough, but we are really close to it though. Really, really close. I'm getting big, nice, big, giant shavings here. So I think between the sharpening and the little bit of wax, I think we're in good shape here. And then I might hit this with the cabinet scraper in a couple of spots, because there's just sometimes you just get a little bit of tear out that you just can't do anything about. That's actually really good right there. Still high on this side. Bad though. So now it's close enough that if I want to sand, I can sand down to that edge and be confident that I'm not going to be removing too much. I can use like a lighter grit, like maybe a 150, and get this perfectly flush without worrying too much about removing any material from the edges here. But that looks really nice. I'm not unhappy with that. The only thing I have to do is fluid film. What is that, fluid film? So what fluid film are you using? Because I'm not familiar with the fluid film, unless I know what the name is. But what would be a name brand for that? Ooh, that's nice. Now I can't get it out. I need to find the crack that was in here. If there is a crack still, it may have gotten cut out. Nope, there's a little teeny crack right here. So I'm going to make sure that that crack gets a little bit of touch with some CA glue, just to solidify it. Because like I said, it probably won't crack further, but just to make sure, I prefer to have it sealed up so that we don't have any issues down the road. I think that's probably good. And there we go. Insta spray. That's like the best stuff ever, is the accelerator. That stuff is just like, it's so awesome. I do pens on my lathe sometimes, and they work really well. All right, so I still don't know what fluid film that you use on your lathe bed. Use it on your lathe bed. What fluid film? You got to tell me what you're talking about, because I'm always up for trying new things. You just gotta let me know what it is, because I'm up for new stuff. All right, that actually turned out really well. I'm very happy with this one. And then, just so you can look, that's what it looks like. It's kind of, I like the fact that it's got the two different color, you know, the sap and the heartwood there. I think that looks really cool. I mean, here's the thing. This is really pretty wood. I mean, hickory's pretty. It's really nice, but oh my God, what a pain in the arse to work with. There's just no easy way of putting it. It is just not pleasant at all. All right, but we have one more to do. What time is it? 1:22, about wrap up time here. And I have to wait for my sander to get here. Sadness. It was supposed to be here by like, 2 or 3 o'clock, and then all of a sudden it's like, your purchase will be here by 10 p.m. I'm like, it's eBay. Or Amazon. I mean, what are you gonna do? Yep, 10 p.m. It's out for. Oh wait. Okay, seriously. Okay, hang on. Don't go anywhere, everybody. Hang on. Hang on. Exciting things. Actually, you know what? Got a garage door right here. So apparently, delivered by 10 p.m. could also mean it's sitting on my front porch right now. Oh, honestly. Sometimes, Amazon, sometimes you just drive me a little crazy. All right. Well, guess what, sports fans? You get to see me unbox a new tool, which very exciting. Yeah, I look at it, it says, oh, delivered by 10 p.m. And then I look again, and it shows a picture of it sitting on my front porch. Like, really? The heck? All right. Oh, okay. So lubrication, rust inhibitor, is that something like Bow Shield? Because I know that Bow Shield's a thing too. A lot of people like to use Bow Shield on their cast iron surfaces to keep them free of rust and stuff. I actually use the wax on all my cast iron surfaces, and it does a pretty good job. All right, big box. Oh, little sander. Here we go. All right, little smushed. Hopefully not very super smushed. Okay, let's see what we got here. From the Robert Bosch Tool Company. Nice. So you got a couple of pieces of tape here. Maybe. So this is the GET 75 6N. If you live in the UK or somewhere, Australia or EU or wherever they might actually deal in metric, I think this is the GET 75-105. It's a 105. Is that right? Whatever the basic equivalent in millimeters would be to the to 6 inches, which we'll verify that right now. 6 inches, which would be 100. So it'd be 150. So it's the GET 75-150. So with this, we get a little bag here. Has don't kill yourselves, guys. They give you one 120 sanding disc. One 120 sanding disc. Now this stuff is like lots of little holes in it too. It's highly perforated. Whereas the ones I got were just 6 holes, I think. There's also a front edge guard. So you would use the front edge guard if you're doing things like sanding floors and you're going up to like edge molding and stuff, but you don't want to sand into the edge molding. You could use something like an edge guard where it basically just keeps you from running into the edge. There's also a handle that you can put on the side along with a screw and a very long hex wrench. I am probably not going to use the side handle. I've been told by a couple of people who have these, because I did some research. I didn't just buy this without checking it out first, but I've been told that you actually get better pressure and more even pressure instead of that side handle, which tends to tip. You get better even pressure if you just have your hand on top. This thing is stout. It's got some heft to it. All right, let me move this box over here. Now, one of the things I like about this, when I was looking at it, if you look at this tool, and it has this, it has the cord hanging out the back, but if you look at the tool, it actually doesn't, it's not back heavy, right? It actually sits flat just like this. So it's very well balanced. It wants to sit this way. Your hand comes up here and up here. You've got your on-off switch over on the thumb right here. Over on this side are your 2 modes. So you've got your standard rotary mode right here, and then what's called turbo mode, which is really, that's where you get the whole gear driven, chew up some wood, remove some stock kind of thing. And you can, so here, when I watch, when I do this mode, nice and easy to turn. When you put it in turbo, it like locks in and you can hear that gear drive just pushing it. The other thing is you've got an adapter here for the hose, which is good because I have a hose adapter right here on my my other sander. Let me take this off of here. So I got this hose. This is a great little hose right here. Where did I get this from? Can't remember, but it should fit on here. It will fit on there. I just need to loosen this. I use these bands, and they usually do a really good job of holding things tight. So that actually works well. So let me put this, actually screws onto their little teeny dust removal thing right here. Probably screws on here, I would think. This, or does it screw on, or just, I think it just presses on like this. There we go. All right, so now you've got the hose adapter on here. I can actually put my hose adapter onto there. And maybe get this on here nice and tight. Let me loosen this a little bit more. So the band clamps are really nice. The hose clamps, I find that they do a really good job, because sometimes these rubber fittings, I mean, they get loose over time because the rubber just stretches. So the hose clamps just really kind of keep everything locked in. Woo! That's nice. I am very excited. Very excited indeed. Well, you know I got to plug it in and try it at least once, right? So I'm going to find my power plug here and plug in my hose. I need a piece of wood here. I don't know that I want to use anything I'm currently working on just yet. Let's see here. Let's see. What am I gonna use this on? Well, I do have a piece of hickory here. It's kind of rough. Let's say we go with, I'll use their little 120 piece right here because it was a freebie anyway. I guess the nice thing about this stuff is you don't have to line it up as much, but then again, I say that, but then again, it has little marks all over. You'd figure this is really hard to line this stuff up. Okay, I'm just gonna put it on here. Hopefully that works. All right, who wants to see this puppy work? I do. Pick me, pick me. I'm gonna put the ears on. I'm gonna turn the fan on, or the exhaust. That work? All right, we're gonna put this in rotary mode. And oh, I also, I did not mention, but this is also a variable speed. So there's a speed knob on the back that goes from 1 to 6. So let's see what those look like. Oh my God, so good. Okay. That is money well spent. I'm going to tell you right now, this is a piece of hickory, and it was kind of, I mean, it is glassy smooth right now. Wow. I am so over the moon happy with this. That's amazing. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? That one that we just finished, I'm going to bring that over here, and there's another adapter in here for a hose. What we got here? Oh, Well, that's interesting. I don't need that, but I'll look and see what that does later. I'm going to put this over here where we were just working on it, and I'm going to just run this over the top. I'm going to do it with 2 hands, and I just want to check out the surface of this. This is really, I am so super excited by this. Oh my God. Okay, I can't begin to tell you how good this feels. Wow, wow, wow. Just quality tools are just so amazing. Now, the one thing that I have to do on these things a lot of times is like these corners that I've rounded over. So this is where the maneuverability sometimes might be an issue because I have to kind of sand these things going around like this. Let me give that a shot. I mean, I don't want to sand this whole thing yet. I'm not at that point, but since I've got it, let's play just for a second here. That is something. That is something. Okay. That is something. Now, I wouldn't probably start with a 120. I'd probably start with something a little lighter than that. Why did my computer just shut down? Computer, wake up. Maybe out of power. Are you kidding me? Okay, well, my computer just shut down, my laptop. So I can't see anybody to make any comments, but all right, well, this is a good place to stop. I am so excited. This works fantastic. It is such a substantial tool. It's built well, even though you got a lot of plastic on here. I mean, it just feels heavy and rugged and tough and really well made. That handle, by the way, you can mount on the left or the right. There's mounting holes on each side. I haven't even tried the turbo mode, but I've been told that you don't use the turbo mode with one hand. It's definitely a two-handed operation and you want to have your board clamped down. I believe it. I just used that right here and I did one corner, and this is some of the toughest wood I've worked with, and it just plowed right through it. I won't say plowed right through it. It did a fantastic job of just creating a really great surface. And yeah, I'm super happy with this. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. What a great purchase. All right, I have one more of these to do, but I'm not going to do that right now. So when you come back, if you come back, I hope you come back on Wednesday. I will be moving on from these lids. The only thing I have left to do is cut the little semicircle on the top so that it has a finger hole to grab onto. That's easy and you don't need to see that. But when I come back on Wednesday, what we're going to do is we're going to start taking triangular pieces of wood like this, and we're going to be cutting them down and putting them in the corners to support the sewing machines that will fit inside here. And we need like 4 cut per machine. And I think I have all of the triangular pieces already done. So all we're gonna have to do is cut and size these and then glue them in. I have some gluing jigs that I use to put them in the corners, and I will show those off to you. And yeah, so that'll be Wednesday. So come back on Wednesday. I'm here at 11 o'clock. Well, I'm back now. I was on vacation, but now I'm back, and I'll be here 11 o'clock Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So I hope you can join me. I really appreciate you being here. And I'm going to go ahead and sign off. And I'm not going to lie, I'm going to play with my sander a little bit more because it's just that cool. But anyway, hope you come back and see me on Wednesday. Thanks for being here. Thanks for stopping in. I really appreciate everybody who came in, throw some comments in there and stuff. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you back here on Wednesday. All right, take care.